and welcome to the exciting conclusion of first that we're doing this. So this is last week, or maybe last month. Who knows when these things will come out or came out. We talked about bands that were banned. It's the same word. I don't know why I'm trying to pronounce them differently.
It is the same word.
They're pronounced exactly the same. Band and band.
Just
bands
spelled differently.
That were banned. It's a homophobe? No, a homonym. A homonym? There's a word for it. Dang it, I'll remember it. That were banned from the United States. Now, in this round, Jay has a list of bands that were banned from other countries. And
that's right,
going
Shayne.
to excite us with them.
Well, I can tell you this subject is a lot more interesting to me than the last one. So I hope you enjoy it as well, dear listener. This one is about, as Shayne alluded to, or flat out said, this is about bands or other artists that are banned from other countries, not the U.S. And might as well go big or go home. We'll start with one of the biggest bands to ever exist on this earth. That's right. I'm talking about the Durango.
Genius.
We cannot get into Czechoslovakia for a number of reasons, mainly because they don't know who the hell we are.
We're not allowed in Constantinople.
No. Not after that incident that didn't exist. So
we're banned from Caladan.
Caladan, yeah. We're banned from Tatooine. I know that for sure.
You know what? You know that it was a wretched hive of scum and villainy.
I tell you.
We had.
I don't care. I don't care what anybody said. Han shot first.
He did.
The Beatles.
Oh, Beatles.
The Beatles in 1965. The Beatles were banned from playing in a Hebrew country. It said the Hebrew country. Is there only one Hebrew country? In this article, it said the. Anyway, the Israeli authorities canceled the 65 performance by the Beatles for fear that the British musicians could corrupt with their long hair and shrill music the moral of the country's youth. I can see how that could happen. Yeah. They're afraid of what they don't understand. It's same. Elvis went through the same thing with his movement of the hips and not being allowed to play in some venues. And the ban was lifted in 2008, and I'm assuming that's the ban BAN instead of BAND. Yes, that is correct. The ban was. Oh, I can see a lot better with these readers. When Israeli authorities apologized to Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr and to the widows of John Lennon and George Harrison. Apparently, this ban actually killed two of the Beatles. So this was devastating. I didn't know. I thought it was something else. Anyway, I thought you should know.
Now, I could see how a country that would have, where the government's going to have more control over something like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were religious groups here too that feared the influence that the Beatles had over the youth, and probably less because they were any more shrill or their hair was any longer than any other band, but they were just the most influential. So it really didn't have anything to do with, I don't think it had anything to do with the content. It was more to do with the influence.
Yeah,
influence.
I agree.
I don't know how to say that.
They had long hair. They were different. They weren't your usual clean cut person, so they didn't know what to make of them. So I get that. So the other band was the Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, the Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin.
So Led Zeppelin had scheduled a presentation in Singapore in 1972. It said February of 1972. I don't know how that is relevant, but the date never took place. I think the date actually did take place, but they just weren't there.
I love some people's writing. That date would never take place.
Yes. So
that's part of the problem is in 1972, there was no Valentine's Day.
There was no Valentine's on February 14th.
Just because Robert Plant wouldn't cut his hair.
Yeah. So the story goes that upon reaching their destination on February 13th, which did happen, by the way, The airport officials denied entry to the group. In fact, not only were they prohibited from entering, they did not even have permission to get off the plane. Incredibly, the band was forced to cancel their scheduled concert. The reason, you might ask? Yes, I would like to ask that. Their songs had nothing to do with satanic lyrics, their daring clothes, the constant references to sex they made on stage, their relationship with drugs, or perhaps their reputation as chaotic and hotel destroying. Quite the opposite. The problem was their long hair. At the time, the Singapore government prohibited men by law from wearing long hair. So musicians received an ultimatum, either cut your hair or fly back to England.
Wow.
So
long hair.
I think we have a friend who has a song about the hair song by the great Colin Boyd.
Wasn't he inspired by Led Zeppelin destroying Valentine's Day in 1972 by their hair?
Yeah, I think that's a true story that we just made up, for sure. Since we're kind of running low on time, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
Well, we're up against it for the toast.
Oh, yeah. So
yeah,
should we go ahead and do a toast?
I think we should.
Okay. Well, I've got one. It's going to suck, so I hope you enjoy it.
I will. I am sweating of it. Sweatingly of it. Soiled with it.
To beer. I used to think beer was bad for me, so I gave up thinking. Cheers.
Cheers. Homophone, Jay. Homophone. A word that sounds like another word, but has a different meaning and or spelling. A homophone.
Homophone.
Yes.
Okay. So
I'm
gonna skip ahead. Homophone, yes. I'm gonna skip ahead. No, I'm going to go with the Rolling Stones. So January 27th, 1973, the group was denied their first show in Japan due to Mick Jagger's previous drug conventions. Perhaps he had conventions with drugs, but 50 years after that historic debut, and after they were denied permission to perform in Japan in 73, the Rolling Stones were able to give the first concert in Japan on February 26, 1990. So January 27, 1973 never happened, but February 26, 1990 did at Tokyo Stadium. On a side note,
rock and roll.
They were previously banned from appearing in Cleveland when a fan fell from a balcony and died at one of their gigs in the city. But the ban was lifted 2 years later. That's BAN, not BAND. And moral of the story, you can always get what you want.
That's pretty funny.
Oh, I wonder who wrote that. Whoever wrote that is genius.
They were a lot better than whoever wrote Led Zeppelin.
So I got another one for you. And this one is a big one. I thought this was really interesting. Frank Sinatra, the chairman of the board. So he played a string of musical performance in Mexico during the early 60s. However, with no small degree of irony, he was banned from entering the country in 1966. In other words, he could no longer play south of the border. He starred along Deborah Kerr in 65 while for the film Marriage on the Rocks, in which the lead married couple get divorced by mistake in Mexico. The film was perceived by Mexican government as offensive because the country was displayed as a place people could get a quickie marriage and divorce. Marriage on the Rocks was also deemed offensive for its portrayal of Mexican officials, which was viewed as detrimental to Mexico's national dignity. The film was properly banned in Mexico, and even Sinatra's songs were pulled from Mexican Airways. However, the Mexican government took it one step further and actually barred Sinatra himself from entering the country.
I could see that because there was a time when our movies and songs made fun of old other cultures. It was pretty blatantly made fun of other countries and cultures. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if there was a movie in 1966 that portrayed Mexican officials as being bumbling or less than bright or something. And I could see them going, "Hey, we're not like that. We're not gonna let that stuff show here."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I get it. But it's crazy to think that even the great Frank Sinatra was not allowed to play in a country. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
so I got one
the Beatles,
more.
Led Zeppelin,
Yeah,
Stones. You don't get too surprised about them being banned somewhere, but then Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, and I'm sure Elvis would have been banned from playing some other countries had he traveled to other countries. He never really left the U.S. But I got one more for you, and then I'm going to let you go, listener.
Thanks for calling.
The great Mrs. Alice Cooper. So in 1975, the legendary rock musician Alice Cooper was banned from playing in Austria on his Nightmare tour. The government, labor, and immigration minister outright refused his entry into the country. So the Australian shows were canceled, and his concerts are famed for the grisly theatrics, featuring like guillotines, gallows, lots of blood, and fake blood. Of course, it's not real, not like Gene Simmons. And this was apparently
or
just
Dave
too
Grohl.
much. Yeah, or Dave Grohl. Apparently, this was too much for the Australia's immigration officer in 1975, who accused Cooper of being a degenerate who would powerfully influence the youth and weak-minded with his sort of exhibition. So his ban from Australia seemed to be too irking because he used the bloody plays of Shakespeare to defend himself, saying that they're equally violent yet are canon in school education. Alice Cooper went on to tour to Australia later years, so perhaps the once greasy immigration officer had since resigned. Oh, Queasy. I said greasy, but it was Queasy, an immigration officer. I think it's hilarious that, I realize that, he was controversial. His shows, very theatrical. What I find funny about that whole thing is he will tell you himself, Alice Cooper is a character that he plays. That's not, he's like, that's not me. Yeah. When he's home with his wife and kids, he talks about Alice Cooper in the third person, or not even in the third person, as just other person. And also he's a big Christian guy. He was a son of
he's become very religious, hasn't
he? Yeah. So I find that kind of funny and ironic. And Australia, really? Come on, man.
Yeah, that sounds more like something personal that person had against, because Australia is pretty much anything goes. They're not real. What's that word? What's the word I'm looking for? They're not really uptight when it comes to stuff like that. Yeah. You know what else is interesting, Jay?
No.
Cooper pointing out that the Shakespearean plays are canon in school education.
Mm-hmm.
Canon like that and Canon the Weapon are examples of homophones. So I'm bringing it back around.
Oh my gosh, that was good.
The Weapon has two N's, C-A-N-N-O-N, and canon, like.
I get it. That's,
it's relevant.
Speaking of canon, we're going to blow up this show. If we didn't already, we hope you enjoyed this little talk about famous people being banned from other countries. We certainly enjoy talking to each other because we enjoy talking to each other. But we hope you come back next week. Sorry.
Don't die. Let's bring it up.
Please come back next week. Please come back next week.
Hey.
Promise it'll be better. Promise it'll be better. And if you can, send us your comments, your likes, your dislikes, your dreams, your aspirations, your money. And sit here right by your internet streaming dial and tune in next Thursday for another exciting fantastic fucking round of Beer Thursday theme song.